Well, it is 6 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started this evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenn Morris. I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Santa Barbara County Independent Public Redistricting Commission, and pleased to welcome you to our meeting this evening. We will call the meeting of June 16th to order at 6 p.m. And Ms. Tilton, if I could have you do a roll call for us, please.
Yes, Commissioner Trotsky.
Present.
Commissioner Twibell.
Present.
Commissioner McClintock.
Present.
Commissioner Turley.
Present.
Commissioner Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Kasich.
Present.
Commissioner Bray.
Present.
Commissioner Ochoa.
Present.
Commissioner Rios.
Present.
Commissioner Adams.
Present.
And Chair Morris.
Present. All right, looks like we're all here, and we've got some folks from the public joining us this evening, so we welcome them as well. Our first order of business this evening is a change of pace for us. We're going to actually begin the real work of the commission in terms of gathering information from the members of the public that they would like us to consider as we move into the actual redistricting process. Our ordinance requires that we hold a series of a minimum of 7 public hearings around the county in each of the districts prior to actually getting into any discussions about selecting or preferring any of the maps that may be submitted by the public. And so tonight we're going to begin that process with our first hearing here in just a few minutes. We are excited to begin hearing from members of the public around issues associated with communities of interest and their recommendations for specific kinds of variables that we ought to be considering as we work our way through this process. To get us started this evening, before we begin to open the mic to the public, our staff are going to make a couple of quick presentations and to kind of set the stage and make sure that we're all on the same page as we begin this process. So Ms. Tilton, I think you're first up.
Yes, and first I want to announce for the public how they can participate during this public hearing. So as you know, tonight's meeting is virtual only, and participation is done through the Zoom webinar app identified on the public agenda. The agenda is posted at the website at drawsantabarbaracounty.org. For those participating through the Zoom webinar link, you'll indicate that you wish to speak during public comment by using the raising your hand feature. And attendees by phone can raise your hand by pressing *9. When called upon, please state your name for the record, and we reserve the right to mute a microphone for profane, harassing, or offensive language, or for speaking beyond the time limit set. And the time limit set during the public hearing comment and during the general public comment at the end of the agenda is 3 minutes. Recordings of the commission meetings, agenda, supplemental materials, and minutes of the commission are available on the internet at drawsantabarbaracounty.org. And I'm going to go ahead and, please, as the chair, will go ahead and get started on the presentation introducing redistricting. Before we do, Daniel, I'm sorry, just a matter of business. Could you please send a repeat invitation to Andrea Orden, please? Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see the presentation? So we want to welcome those who are perhaps joining us for the first time to hear about the Commission's charge to create districts, or actually to create new districts, realigning the districts for population balance for the County of Santa Barbara. And the goal of our presentation is, and this presentation will be used to inform the public about the process, to provide the public information about the tools that are available for them to participate in the process, and to provide a means for you to directly participate and have a say in how the lines are drawn. So we always say that our goal is to engage, educate, and empower each citizen of the County of Santa Barbara to be a part of the redistricting process. So what is redistricting? Redistricting happens every 10 years with the federal census, and new election lines are going to be drawn to determine which community members are placed in each supervisorial district, and each of the voters within each district will elect one of their own to be county supervisor. The thing that is unique about this is that we must use the federal census numbers, and as we all know, they are delayed. So there's a slight delay in the census numbers, but the good news now is we can start now, and we are going to walk you through the process of how you can be involved, and then we'll eventually flip over to our website and talk about the timeline and what's coming up next. We often get the question, why should I become involved? And sharing your unique point of view, you know your communities better than we do. You live there, you know what neighborhoods seem to make sense to be aligned with one another, where people congregate, what people have the same interests, which communities are diverse and should be included within a single district for fair representation. The Brennan Center for Justice summarizes it, and they have a good way in effect saying, our elected representatives set the rules by which we live, affecting the taxes we pay, the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the way we make each other safer and more secure. The Mexican American Legal Defense Education Fund, the NWACP, and the Asian American Justice Center all created documentation on redistricting. It's available as a resource on the website, and we'll point you to how to get to that. But one of their quotes, it can also help lead to the adoption of redistricting plans that provide minority communities a meaningful opportunity to elect candidates who represent their interests on issues that are important to their lives, from getting street lamps in their neighborhoods to securing safe schools and new playgrounds. So what does it look like? It looks like what will be happening is we'll have a series of public hearings and workshops in which we'll be talking about what these communities of interest are. We want to hear from the public. We want to hear from you about your communities. We want you to tell your story about your communities. We'll be presenting the mapping tools so that you can actually get in and draw the lines and be able to fairly represent your community through the lines drawn. And then we will be providing data, socioeconomic data that will help you define what these communities are, and population data so that you can adequately draw lines to be able to represent an equal population balance in all of each of the 5 supervisorial districts. I mentioned that the census data is delayed. The good news is that we will have estimated population data that's going to be available for you to use. And we have other data that is already available as far as the citizen voting age population and the voting registration, voter turnout information, and other socioeconomic data that is up to date. And you can use now in starting to draw your maps. And then after the maps are drawn, after we have a series of a minimum of 7 hearings before maps are drawn, then we'll have 7 hearings after maps are drawn where we can review the maps. And we'll have workshops just as this one, where we'll actually have the maps and talk about the features you like about the maps, what you don't like about the maps. There will be an opportunity for folks to explain why they drew the map the way they drew it. We'll also ask people to submit written comments of why they drew maps the way they drew the map, so that it makes sense to the other members of the community who are drafting their own maps. And perhaps they can take a map that you've drawn And they really particularly like the way you've drawn a couple of districts and combine it with their map. That's what we're hoping that we get public participation throughout the entire process up until map adoption. So who draws the lines? Well, as we mentioned, we want the community to be involved in drawing the maps. And for that reason, the county has made the decision to make all of the mapping tools available to the public. We'll be going into more detail about what mapping tools are available, but we have from the most sophisticated to the least sophisticated tools that are available for the public to use. So we're hoping that the public submits draft maps for the commission to review. And then who ultimately approves the lines? Well, that is your Citizens Independent Redistricting Commission. The voters approved Measure G in 2018 that created this commission. It is one of the first independent commissions that was created through a citizens initiative and voted on by the voters. And one of the edicts of Measure G is that it requires an independent, transparent, and nonpartisan process that creates the opportunity for everyone to be heard. Here are the members of your commission. And I believe we actually do have some pictures that I didn't capture in this PowerPoint of the other commissioner, our newest commissioners, Commissioner Kasich and Commissioner Adams. So we're beginning our public engagement process, and this is one of our first public engagement meetings. And actually, I think this is our second public hearing technically. And then in addition to these public hearings, we've also engaged the firm of Tripeppy Smith to help with a major public engagement campaign that's going to include online, traditional media, and face-to-face. We have an Instagram account, we have a Facebook account, we have Twitter. Things are already being posted to that. We have a brand new website, drawsantabarbaracounty.org. So we're hoping to reach as many people as possible, and we're going to be really relying on public input on how better to reach those communities, especially those that are underrepresented, and those that speak minority languages. So any help, if you have insight on how we can reach these communities, we definitely want your feedback. We want to hear from you so that we can get more people and more residents to come out to these meetings and help us to define what their local communities of interest are. And again, we want the residents to draw initial draft maps. We hope that you try using our mapping tools, but you can also take an existing map that you have and just draw in lines of what you think represents your community. And then after the maps are drawn, we'll have 7 hearings to gather impact on the maps. And then ultimately, the commission needs to adopt a map by December 15th. I'm sorry, Daniel, it looks like that Andrea Orden is having difficulty and she needs a panelist login. And I hope that you're hearing me and you're able to send her an invite. I know she's trying to call. If someone could reach and text out to her, that we'll get her an invite. That would be appreciated. Thank you. So the rules for drawing the lines. This is relatively new. In January of 2020, we had the Fair Maps Act that was adopted, and we also had Measure G, and both of those set guidelines for us. In addition, we have our existing federal laws. So the federal laws under the United States Constitution, we must have each of the districts be equal population, and we must use the census data. So again, we must use the 2020 census data. What's unique for California is that once the census data is released, and we're actually expecting release of data in what they're calling the legacy format. It's a little rougher format than what we'll see September 30th. But on August 16th, we'll receive population data that the state will then take and revise to reassign all the state incarcerated prisoners to their home addresses. So that will take approximately 6 weeks, and then we will get that, and we will know what that target number is so that we have a reasonable equal population in each of the 5 districts. It doesn't have to be exactly equal. A 10% deviation is generally acceptable, no more than 10% deviation. meaning that the least populated district, the difference between the least populated district and the greatest populated district can be no more than 10%. And then we must abide by the Federal Voting Rights Act, meaning we can't draw districts in a manner that would dilute the voting power of our protected class communities. And no racial gerrymandering. When we're drawing the lines, race can be a factor, but cannot be the dominant or controlling factor. So instead of considering race alone or as the dominant factor, we would look to things, other factors such as a shared history of a particular community, shared language of a community, common social networks, shared interests in schools, health, public safety, those factors that indicate perhaps whether members of a racial group also form as communities of interest. The middle column are your state laws and the Measure G requirements. We have them combined here in a listing. The first, this is coming from Measure G, is the California Voting Rights Act. What's interesting about the California Voting Rights Act, it doesn't actually provide guidance on how lines are drawn, but the purpose of the act is to address ongoing vote dilution and discrimination in voting matters of statewide concern. So that you can see why the drafters of Measure G place that as a requirement for when drawing the lines. And then we turn to the Fair Maps Act, which requires geographical contiguity, undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest, undivided cities and census designated places, easily identified boundaries, compactness, topography and geography, and cohesiveness. And then we can look to other traditional principles, such as perhaps future population growth. If there's been known population growth in a particular area, then you could perhaps, that may be one of the areas that you slightly underpopulate within that allowable or acceptable 10% deviation. And we also want to look to minimize the voters that are shifted from a different election cycle. So if you have a group of voters who are expecting to vote in 2022 and switch them to 2024, then it would have been a total of 6 years since they were last able to vote for a supervisor. So we certainly want to avoid that whenever possible. When we're looking at these rules for drawing the line, especially in that middle category, most of them are pretty easily understood. The one that's difficult for folks to understand is communities of interest. And you can see that's one of the highest ranking criteria. So when we look in that center column, those are listed by orders of priority. And I'm looking at number 3, which is undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest. So we are on the next slide, we're going to be talking more about that in detail. An additional prohibition is that the commission cannot consider the residence of any incumbent or political candidate, and none of the lines shall be drawn for purposes of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent or a political candidate or a political party. So let's talk about communities of interest. So communities of interest are a contiguous population that share common social and economic interests that should be included within a single district for purpose of its effective and fair representation. So that's the key, and that's important here for its effective and fair representation. It's a little bit difficult to grasp what the meaning of that communities of interest is. So I want to spend just a little bit of time and just go into some more in-depth explanation of communities of interest. When we pop over to our website after this PowerPoint presentation, we're going to be going through a tool called Story Plan. And the Story Plan will help you to understand how you can identify on a map perhaps where certain communities of interest lie. So communities of interest are basically overlapping sets of neighborhoods or networks or groups that share common interests. So it can be culture, history, languages, values. But the important things is that we need to be able to identify these borders on a map, right? So we eventually need to hear from the public. Yes, you can define your community. Can you also show us the geographical boundaries of this community so that when we're drawing the map, we can make sure that we don't divide that into separate districts, if it's possible to keep it in a single district, and if it makes sense for its effective and fair representation. Some of those interests might be interests in schools, housing, community safety, transit, health conditions, land use, environmental conditions, or other issues that a community has come together on. Perhaps they have common issues they've been trying to get their voices heard on. That all defines, those are communities of interest. There's also communities of interest could be common social and civic networks, including churches, mosques, temples, homeowners associations, community centers, or shared use of community spaces, such as maybe parks. We often hear that shopping centers are sometimes very important to different communities in different neighborhoods. And that would, pardon me, definitely be part of a community of interest. Excuse me just a moment. Also, racial and ethnic compositions. There's a cultural identity or shared use, or a cultural identity and households that predominantly speak a particular language. That could be considered a community of interest. Or, pardon me, similar socioeconomic status, including income, home ownership, education levels. There's particular areas that, and again, these needs to be areas where you can define the geographical boundary. That's going to be important when we're drawing these maps. We'll sometimes look at shared political boundaries. We'll definitely be looking at the boundaries of cities, at other census designated places, but there could be other political boundaries. And when I'm talking political, I'm meaning when there is a governing body, such as a water district or a school district, or a fire district or a community college district. So that, I know that it's a very general and broad subject, but that will give you an idea to get you started in thinking about communities' interests. And again, our goal of these particular workshops, the 7 public hearings that we're holding before we hear draft map, is to come up essentially with a list of these communities of interest. And we want to be able to define what those boundaries are on a map. So it's going to be important when the public's giving us input to not only tell us what creates their neighborhood or what creates their community, but to also give us the general locale of that community. And if you give street names, that's ideal. Give us street boundaries, or use one of the tools and just draw your neighborhood. So it's possible we'll be having tools where you can just draw a particular neighborhood and submit it so that we know what you consider your boundaries to be of your community. So again, we're asking you to define your communities. What are the boundaries? What are the issues? If you put down in writing what the issues are, it helps us to recall, it helps us to remember, and it helps us when we're drawing the maps to remember, oh yes, this is why this community aligns with one another. So we're asking you to submit your maps or your public testimony to give those comments so that we can have a record and recall what was important to you about that community and about those boundaries. We have launched our website, and we will continue to improve and update our website as we go along. But we really, during these public hearings, we want you to describe your community. We want you to go to the website. We want to use the tools where you can draw a map. We're hoping to have those tools available by early July. And then we want you to provide your input directly to the commission, either through the website or at these community hearings. Our website is drawsantabarbaracounty.org. Different ways you can participate. Again, visit one of the meetings, contact information, give us contact information for community groups that we can come meet with. We can join their meetings and be a guest speaker perhaps. And then also you can email us at redistricting@countyofsb.org. Public outreach is an important part of this. It's a difficult concept for the public to understand, and it's difficult to us to reach those communities, especially those communities that are underrepresented and the lower turnout communities. So we're asking for your help. If you know a group that we should contact, we're asking you to provide their names, and we have a link on the website for you to do so. And that completes my presentation here. I'd like to switch over to the actual website at this point, and then I'm going to call upon Dr. Phillips. He's going to help to describe what the story plan is. Let's see if I can go to this link directly, or I may need to go out. Go here. Pardon me just a moment. Let me, you have to give me just a moment. I thought I had it ready to launch, but I may have closed it inadvertently. So let me just see what I can, if I can get the website back up for you.
Recording in progress.
Pardon me. Okay. Welcome to drawsantabarbaracounty.org. If you have some time, we encourage you to watch this video, share it with your friends, and give you just a little glimpse of what we're looking for and how you can help shape the future of Santa Barbara County. On the welcome page here, if you scroll down, you'll see one of the first things we describe is Santa Barbara's geography story map and Santa Barbara County's geography online geography map. And I think at this point, I'll ask Dr. Phillips if he can do a little example of the story map to help you as you're identifying your communities of interest. And it's basically a tool, so you can zoom in and see the different geographical boundaries of those other political boundaries, as well as where your concentrated areas are of the different race and ethnic communities, and various maps that help you in defining communities of interest. So Dr. Phillips, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and you can show us the story map, and then I can finish showing what's in the website.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Okay.
I apologize if you hear some fans in the background. As you can imagine, it's a hot day, so I'm gonna, hopefully you don't hear that too much, but I'm going to share my screen with you. And what I'll be showing is the story map that we have for this project. And it is called Mapped Data for Santa Barbara County. And at the outset, I just want to tell you that what I'm showing you is an unpublished draft. There is a version of this that is live that you can look at now, but I have been in the process of making some changes to it to make it a little more user-friendly and less lengthy. And so what I'm showing you is some features that are not available right now, but hopefully in the next couple of days, it will be live and you'll be able to do this yourself. But the main feature that is new is what are called map actions, which are these little buttons that you see to the left of the screen. So on this sidebar has the text information that accompanies the map to the right. And so the first bit of information you see here is census data. And you can see by clicking on each of these buttons, you see a different data layer that is highlighted. So if you click on census county subdivisions, then you should be able to see that there are 7 county subdivisions. I'm going to refresh my website so that to get the map working a little better for me here. Sometimes have to do that just because of the sheer amount of data that is being displayed on this site. So once I get that up and going, I'll be able to hopefully show you what data is available here. Solis, why don't you finish your presentation on the website, and then we can come back to the story map once I figured out what's going on with the web page here.
All right. Okay, so Daniel is showing us the Santa Barbara County geography story map. And then there is also an online geography map. And I can go ahead and show you that. So this shows some duplicate information that's going to be on the story plan, the story map. And the story map is going to be a little easier to understand. But you can see the various layers that you can overlap. And the legend down below. So down below, you can see that the red outlined are actually cities, and the gray are census designated places. So say you were looking in perhaps the city of Lompoc. Get it centered. Maybe I want to zoom in so I can see it just a little bit better. And say I was interested in knowing where our citizen voting age population for our Latinx community mostly reside. So this provides us a color coding, and the colors that you're looking for the highest concentration, the 75 to 100%, are depicted in pink and in the lighter yellow and the lighter green colors. So you can see that most of our Latinx citizen voting age population is concentrated in this particular area. Now for a county, it would be unlikely that this area would be divided. But just to show you the concept, if maybe the city were considering districts, they would want to make sure that they didn't divide a neighborhood that has a high concentrated area of a particular group. Similarly, you can unclick the Latino citizen voting age population, show you the Asian population. We have some pinks, but mostly purples, and the purple are showing us that it's 0 to 25%. For our citizen voting age Black community, percentage of renters. This gives you an idea. And again, the pinks and the lighter colors, the legend is over here, 75% and above are for the pink areas. It's a fun map to play around with, particularly once you get your maps drawn, because it can give you a sense of, in general, of the communities. We also have just the various categories. I think we have income levels, all the types of socioeconomic information, and we have the political boundaries that I was speaking of. So we have on here, for example, high school attendance zones. So sometimes that's very important to communities where you maybe want to have a high school attendance zone, not divided. I'm going to go back to the web page. So that again is under the Welcome tab at the beginning of the web page, and that's our Santa Barbara County geography map. And Daniel will be showing you later. I'll go ahead and go through the website, the Santa Barbara County geography story map, which is similar and just in a different format and a more user-friendly format, actually.
Shalise, I think I'm ready.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and walk through this and maybe then turn it over to you so we have continuity. Then we give some background on how the commission was formed, and then some of our documents regarding the ordinance forming it, the commission bylaws, the conflict of interest code, and ex parte disclosures on our main page. The second tab is where all of our meetings are listed. And I do want to point out that we have identified all of our July meetings as being held virtually. That was based on guidance from the county regarding the OSHA regulations that prevented employees from staffing large group meetings where there was not adequate facilities to provide social distancing. We are expecting some new guidance from OSHA as soon as we believe tomorrow that may change that. So in the meantime, we have arranged backup locations. So please watch this site for the next location. It will be posted on here, and we have lined them up tentatively. For these meetings, we'll be focusing on particular districts. So we'll be trying to hold them in each of the particular districts. So we cover all 5 districts, actually having a meeting physically in each of those districts, so that folks from that community can focus on what their neighborhoods, their communities of interest are. And we're hoping to dedicate most of the comments, get those comments mostly focused to that particular district, so we can get good feedback from all of the 5 districts. Once we get draft maps, they'll be listed in the draft maps page, and all maps are listed. So any map that is submitted by the public is produced by NDC and will be posted under the draft maps page. It'll also be accompanied with a demographic summary. So once the maps start coming and getting produced, they'll be posted on here. This won't happen until after we receive the official census count, but we want you to start drafting your maps now and be ready to submit. We're hoping you can use the estimated population counts that we will be providing with the draft map tools, so that you can get your maps ready. And then our hope is just make minor tweaks to get them within population balance, and then submit them so we can produce them and have them listed here under this draft maps page. We are finalizing our tools for Santa Barbara County, and we're hoping to have those available early in July. And this draw a map page is where you'll be accessing the tools, and we'll have everything from paper tools where you basically just print out the piece of paper and draw a colored line or a heavy solid line around the boundary and submit it. And then we will professionally produce it for you. You can also use a spreadsheet to help calculate your population totals. If you're familiar with Excel, that's a useful tool. It's not worth learning Excel for that because it's a little bit complicated, but if you are just playing around and want to know how close you are with the populations. And we also provide the citizen voting age population data as well. And then we have District R, which is a simple tool that you'll be able to draw your particular community. So that's a fun one where if you just know your community, you're not really familiar with the rest of the county, but you really know your community. District R is an easy to use tool, and these links will be activated once we get the tools available. And then the most robust tool that we have is the Calipers Maptitude online redistricting tool. And that is where you'll actually be able to use similar tools to what the demographers use to draw your map. They'll have all of the counts, all of the data available for you to look at. What's great about this tool is before you decide you wanted to submit it to the commission, you can share it with the public in general. So there's a public place within this tool where you can post it and others can use your map and perhaps take portions of your map and customize it to what they see fit. And then I showed you the interactive review map where you can zoom in and out and look at once the maps are drawn, they'll also be posted on that interactive review map that I showed earlier. We have a frequently asked questions section of the website that we hope that you'll take some time and read through those. There's some interesting information. We have various resources for you to look up, and we will also be posting additional information on here, such as some PDFs, perhaps, or some links to where you can find the citizen voting age population and other types of concentrations to the story maps. If you want to subscribe to receive alerts on new things coming up for the commission, new meetings coming up, when we've updated the meetings list, we encourage you to subscribe. You will get an email when there are updates on any new events. And then also, if you know an organization that we should reach out to, we have our suggested outreach list, and we're asking that you provide us some information through this link as well. Then, of course, you can contact us directly, give us information about your communities. You can do that here. If you have a question about the redistricting process, or if you have any map suggestions, maps that you would like to see, this is the place where you can submit that. And then that completes my run through of the website. We're looking forward to our public hearings in July, where we'll actually be able to demonstrate some of the map drawing tools. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, Daniel, if you want to show us further the story map.
Thank you. Apologies for the mishap, but what we have here is just an example of particular data you could look up on the story map. So you see here we have all the zip code areas in the county. And if you want to focus on a particular area of the county, you could click on one of these three buttons. So if you want to go to North County, it will take you there. South County, you can see what is over there. Now, Ms. Tilton already talked about the citizen voting age population, but you can click on any of these buttons to look at a particular race or ethnicity. We have other demographics of interest. For example, you could look at percent high school graduates, and you can see which areas of the county have lower percentages. So you can navigate in the map itself by clicking on the plus or minus at the bottom right here, and pan by dragging your mouse in the map. And by doing so, you can see parts of Santa Maria that have lower rates of high school graduation. The legend you can see to the left here, and also click on this legend to get that information. And so if you go down here, you can see various special districts that are located in the county, such as water districts. So only the water districts are highlighted, and sanitary districts, so on. But moving down the list, I do want to highlight one particular type of data, which are voting districts. Of course, this whole process is about the particular voting districts of county Board of Supervisors districts. And so if you go down here, you can see where the current county Board of Supervisors districts are. And so you can see that District 1 is over in this part of the county. It covers Carpinteria, the eastern part of Santa Barbara, and goes all the way up to the Kylea area. District 2 covers western Santa Barbara, part of Goleta, and some areas in between. District 3 is very expansive. It covers Santa Ynez Valley, part of Goleta, and even goes up to Guadalupe. District 4 gets the Boca of Lompoc, as well as Orchid and parts of South Santa Maria. And District 5 gets the rest of Santa Maria and some rural areas. So that is something I wanted to highlight to you, just so you have an idea of what the current districts are that we're seeking to redistrict. And you can play around with this at your own leisure. But one last thing is, if you want to actually select inside the map. So for example, this is Santa Barbara City Council districts, its current ones. You can click and you can see that it selects the city of Santa Barbara, but you can click this arrow down here and you can see that it's only selecting that particular district. So if you go here, you can see that this is this district includes this part of the city as well as the airport. So that is all I have to share for now, but happy to answer any questions.
And Chair Morris, that concludes our NDC's presentation. So we'll be happy to answer questions now or after the public hearing, whatever is your pleasure, or both.
Let me just see if anybody on the commission has any questions they want to ask before we jump in. Commissioner Rios.
Yes, so thank you for going over story map. I do have a question. Maybe I missed this myself, and because I'm a part of outreach. Is this story map already viewable to the public? Like if I were to go in right now, only because I was trying to use it and the geographical map wouldn't load at all. The only thing that was loading was the stuff on the left. And so I wasn't sure if it was my computer or potentially the site, or it just hasn't been up, it's not viewable yet fully.
I had the same issue as I was looking at our website, Janet. Shalisa's tab on draft maps was much more filled with information than my tab on draft maps.
Okay, maybe it's just slow, because I think, Daniel, you did mention there was a lot of data there that took a while to load. So that could be it too.
It's working fine for me.
Okay.
So I am in the process of paring it down and making it much less lengthy. And so I'm hoping that once I'm done with it, it will be much easier for people to use, and hopefully you won't have these same problems. But right now it should be live and accessible, and the map should be visible. And you won't see the buttons like I showed you, because that's the version I'm working on now. But once I have that ready, which will be in the next couple of days, then that will be published. And so when you go to that same website, you should see the improvements I made.
Okay. Thank
Commissioner
you.
Bradley.
My first question, it has to do with actually just kind of what we were just talking about. Would it be possible to put somewhere on the website any system requirements or special, if you need to run Java plugins or whatever you need to run special tools, if there are any requirements, can we make that front load the website so it's easy to find that? It sounds like you don't really need much of that though. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Next question is on the new website, which I really like. I could not find a link for the old agendas and information from our previous meetings. Is that going to go under the resources pull down?
The meetings, if you scroll down, then all the meetings should be there.
Oh, okay. I guess I just
Yeah.
missed it.
Mhm.
Also, is there a tool to show us what has changed population-wise in the last 10 years? So if someone wanted to sort of start with what has changed in terms of where people are living now, would it be possible to see that as a 10-year jump, just to see quickly where things have moved population-wise?
Doug, do you want to jump in, or I can?
Yeah, it's not built in now, but it shouldn't be too hard to do. So we can work on including that. Might be something interesting to show folks, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, let's open up our public input portion of the meeting this evening. As we do that, I want to just make sure that we're clear about process and procedure this evening. So typically we would start with general public comment, that we would ask people to make comments about things that are not on the agenda, and then at the top of the meeting. Tonight, we're reversing that order. And so we're going to start with a public hearing here where members of the public are welcome to share input about communities of interest or any other data or community descriptions that they would like the commission to consider as we think about drawing lines. At the end of our meeting, after the close of the public hearing, we'll take care of our regular business items on the rest of the agenda. And at the close of our meeting this evening, we will have time for general public comments related to items that didn't get covered someplace else. Hopefully that's clear, and we'll be able to work through that. So if you have input you would like to share with us this evening, we would encourage you to raise your hand in the using the raise your hand feature. And Ms. Tilton, I'll look to you to kind of guide us through the list and introduce our speakers. Would also just remind folks again that in the interest of making sure that as many people get a chance to speak as possible, we are going to try to stay with the 3-minute time limit again. So, Ms. Tilton, anybody who's first?
Yes, our first speaker is Jacob, followed by Kylea Solis.
Good evening, Jacob.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I represent. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I represent the Independent Living Resource Center. We're an organization that provides services and advocacy for those with disabilities in Santa County. And I would just like to ask the commission that when they're drawing lines, to please consider transit systems in their decision. Santa has a problem with public transportation, and that there's not enough of it, and we need districts that reflect the public transit needs in our cities. And if we break up too many cities, then we break up the transit interest, making it hard for advocates like myself to advocate for comprehensive transit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Kylea Solis.
Evening, Ms. Solis.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Kylea Solis, and I'm a resident of Santa Barbara County, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Planned Parenthood Central Coast Action Fund. Santa Barbara County is a Latino majority community, And we need to make sure that we have a Latino majority district. And redistricting is important to us because we want to make sure that Planned Parenthood Central Coast patients' needs are being represented both in the healthcare that Planned Parenthood provides, but also at the Board of Supervisors level. Our mission is to expand access to quality reproductive healthcare for all through community education and public policy, which includes redistricting. 58% of the patients that Planned Parenthood serves are Latinx, and many of the patients served face disparities in housing, education, transportation, and have unique economic needs that impact their access to healthcare. We're here to urge fair representation at the supervisors level and to ensure that the communities we serve have a seat at the table. Thank you so much for your time and all of your work.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Rebecca Garcia.
Good evening, Ms. Garcia.
Hello, commissioners. Good evening. Hope you're all staying hydrated. As you may know, I'm here, or I work with CAUSE as a policy advocate, and CAUSE is a Central Coast Alliance United for a Sustainable Economy. We're a social, economic, and environmental organization in Santa Barbara County, and primarily work with working and immigrant class families, in particular farm workers in North County. Santa Barbara's county population is 46% Latino. Our county maps, therefore, should include a Latino majority district in order to increase Latino representation on the Board of Supervisors, which is of right now is non-existent. One clear way to accomplish this goal would be to join Santa Maria and Guadalupe in one district. These neighboring cities make up an important community of interest in Santa Barbara County. We're a community of interest because we are an agricultural working class and farm working community facing disparities in housing, education, and healthcare with unique economic needs. And we are a community of immigrant families with a much larger share of Latinx residents, immigrants, and Spanish and Indigenous language speakers than the surrounding region. Personally, my family has lived in Guadalupe for decades, working in Santa Maria, shopping at our grocery stores, bringing their children here for recreational activities. It just goes without saying that we share a community. So the separation of our communities has felt impractical and at work unjust. Guadalupe shares so much more with Santa Maria than it does with mid-county cities or Isla Vista. So we hope the commission will correct this in these new maps. And I don't know how much time I have left, but I also just wanted to thank Janet Rios for her service on the commission. And when you all consider who to appoint her in her place, it's important that you consider replacing her with a younger person of color. Out of the qualified applicants for District 5, I believe that Kevin Elak, is the strongest candidate, given his tenure as a teacher at Pioneer Valley, who's well connected to the community and will bring effective representation to this commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
And Chair Morris, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, but I do want to say we did receive one public comment from Joanna Barrera regarding the Santa Maria Valley and including Santa Maria and Guadalupe as a community of interest.
Very good.
And
We'll
don't
give
see any other
one
hands.
more opportunity. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board at this time, or the commission at this time, on this topic of communities of interest? Good news is you'll have at least 6 more opportunities to do this over the next several weeks. But if you've got something now, we'll take it. Very well. We'll close the public hearing portion and bring this back to the commission. Before we move on to our agenda, and while we're on the subject of future meetings, could we just bring back up that schedule one more time, just to make sure that people have can grab those dates?
Yes.
That
Let me bring
on
up
the website, or
yeah, I'm going to bring up this one because we are hoping that we can do the July meetings in person. So Dr. Phillips has been working with the county to get those lined up. And as soon as we get the word that it's okay to meet in person in July, then this is where we will be meeting for the items in red.
any chance you could just enlarge that just a tiny bit?
Okay.
There we go. Folks want to grab a screenshot of that or grab a photo. So I would point out right off the bat, we will be back this Saturday morning at 10 a.m. That meeting will be virtual on the same link as we've been like we're doing tonight. But as Ms. Tilton mentioned, fingers crossed, we are planning to begin in-person hearings as soon as July the 7th, as we begin our journey around the county, collecting information for folks. So want to make sure that everybody knows when and where those opportunities. I also would point out that the meeting again on Saturday does not have a particular district focus. It's a county-wide input. And then starting in July, we will begin kind of trying to focus more specifically on each of the existing districts as we work our way around. Okay, very good. We can stop sharing that and we will move on. Any final thoughts from any of the commissioners before we leave agenda item 1 and move on with the rest of our agenda? Okay. Agenda items 2 and 3 are informational. Would just refer people back again to the website where they can find a link. These are found at the bottom of the landing page of form that captures ex parte communication reports by members of the commission, as well as the outreach recommended outreach organizations list and an opportunity for people to add their own organization or refer us to other organizations that we should be making contact with as part of our process. So both of those links are available on the website. So we would encourage people to go there. Commissioners, we'll go to our consent calendar. We're going to begin trying to consolidate some of these items. And so rather than taking them one at a time and doing roll calls multiple times, we're going to do common items under a consent calendar format. So items 4 and 5 are up for adoption and approval. And unless there are corrections or comments, somebody needs to pull something, I would welcome a motion to accept the consent calendar, including items 4 and 5.
I so move.
Commissioner Adams moves. Commissioner Bradley, can I take you as a second? Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
sir.
Second.
Ms. Tilton, we can do a roll call on the consent calendar.
Commissioner Trosky. I missed the response.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Twibell,
Aye.
Commissioner McClintock,
Aye.
Commissioner Turley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Kasich,
Aye.
Commissioner Bray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rios,
Aye.
Commissioner Adams,
Aye.
Chair Morris.
Aye.
Motion
Those items
carries.
pass. I do just want to acknowledge that one of those items is the letter we received from Commissioner Rios. While we will miss you, Commissioner Rios, we wish you the very, very best with your next endeavor. It sounds, as you've described it to me a little bit, like an amazing opportunity. And so we're very excited for you as you move on to your next step in your journey. So congratulations. And we're pleased that you'll be with us for at least one more meeting as we, so we've got a little bit of time there. So thank you for that. That leads us to item number 6, which is get some direction from the commission about how we move forward with replacing Commissioner Rios on the commission. Just as a reminder, our pattern has been, so this would be a 5th district replacement. So at this moment, we'd only be considering candidates remaining in the pool from the 5th district. And we would not, some of those individuals have been interviewed at prior times. We would not re-interview them, although we could consider them by asking the commissioners to go back and review their original interview by video. But I'd like to, just open this up for some input about your preferences about how we proceed on this. So Commissioner Twibell?
I was wondering, in the past, we've taken somebody that's in a district and made them, like the at-large person, Kate, she is in the 5th district. So we could move her to the 5th district and then open up once again the at-large position.
That's certainly an option if that's the direction the council or the commission wants to go. Just to kind of lay it out there, Commissioner Rios is one of our Democratic Party affiliated representatives. She is also one of our Hispanic representatives. In some instances, we have chosen to limit our pool to try to match those, the characteristics of the individual being replaced. What's your preferences, folks? Mr. Bradley.
I'd like to suggest that the easiest and most expedient and probably the best thing to do would be to keep it simple, replace Ms. Rios with a 5th district candidate. I think we have someone who's ready and very, very qualified for that position, who's been endorsed by our recently departed commissioner, Ben Olmedo, and I think also endorsed by Commissioner Rios herself. And that, of course, is Kevin Elak. So I would recommend that we keep things simple and would move to nominate him if we want to proceed to that.
Okay. Commissioner McClintock.
Just a question. Was Kevin Elak declared Democrat or no party preference?
Ms. Tilton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on his application, it's no party preference.
I believe that is correct.
Mr. Bray, I see you went off mute. Are you pondering a thought or just tapping?
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, my thought was, I don't know who the other candidates are from the 5th district. Is it possible to get a roster of who the candidates
Yes,
are?
it is. Ms. Tilton, do you have that available? You could share on a screen. I should have probably asked you for that earlier. And could you, zoom in. So obviously, Ms. Rios is our departing. Ms. Adams is a sitting member, as am I, from the 5th district. That leaves Mr. Hartman, who we have interviewed previously. Ms. O'Neill, who I do not believe we have. Mr. Elak has been interviewed. Mr. Dickerson and Mr. Martinez. Mr. Sullivan have not. You can see there the party affiliation, ethnicity, age, gender, etc.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bray.
Did Mr. Martinez, is my recollection that he withdrew his name from consideration?
No, I believe that he had indicated at a prior time he was not available then, but did not withdraw fully. I think
Okay.
it was not at that moment.
Okay.
And Ms. Tilton, there may have been somebody else that we invited. Was Ms. O'Neill the same?
Yes, initially she was interested in being interviewed, and at the time she was working on a very large and important project, and then decided that she should probably not be considered for that particular round because of her commitment to that project.
But again, it was not a no never.
That's correct.
Okay. Ms. Rios.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if I'm allowed to because it's my position being replaced, but I just wanted to echo what Commissioner Bradley had said, just because I do think right now, leaving y'all in this tough situation, I do think Kevin Elak is an easy choice if we decide to go an easy route, if he's still interested, just considering what, depending on what the commission decides to do, finding a balance between, we keep talking about race, and also considering age. After me, I think he is the next youngest person in the pool, and he works with high school students. I think considering Pioneer Valley is one of the largest Hispanic serving high schools in the area, I think I'm just putting that out there, food for thought. And even though he is not Hispanic, his ties, he does represent a community of colors. And I mean, Tom is Hispanic according to this, but I just want to point out the age gap there and the party as well.
Commissioner Adams.
I want to, as Commissioner Rios has said, sort of throw my support behind ELAC and also what Commissioner Bradley said. But I don't think that this is an easy choice or a simple choice. I think it's kind of a required choice. Nothing has been simple, it seems to me, about trying to create balance in this commission relative to age, party preference, and race. It's been a kind of a struggle because of the number of resignations we've seen and the number of the initial pool from which we have drawn. So I guess it's keeping it simple to forward Kevin Ilak's name for District 5, which I would support. But it's just one more step in what has been a very complex process, and that he represents and is himself a person of color, and that he is a young person are both more important to me than his no party preference. Democrat versus Republican balance being sort of in the foreground in our last conversations about who would replace the last person who had to step off of the commission.
And I just want to add one more thing. Considering, I know, Kate, you're from District 5, and Glenn, you're from District 5. When I think about the age and also the race, I want to make sure that there is a person of color representing District 5, considering District 5's demographic, and how the average, in Santa Maria, it is a very young city. Like the average person, I think there is like in the mid-20s. And so I do want to highlight that.
Ms. Turley.
I want to echo everything that Janet and Commissioner Bradley and Commissioner Adams have said. I think that they all have excellent points. I'm just really struggling with consistency here. And if we are being consistent, I think it's necessary that we reach back out to individuals who expressed possibly an interest in being recontacted if we're considering another opening, and also individuals who are expressed a party preference as Democrat. So I'm a little bit on the fence about everything right now, and that's where I'm at.
Commissioner McClintock.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo exactly what Commissioner Turley just said. I think, based on the legal advice and comments that we heard about the importance of partisan balance and our emphasis on that in our last discussion, I really think we have to be consistent, as Megan just said, with considering all the folks that could potentially fill that Democrat spot. So
and that's two people, right?
That's right.
Okay.
I can support that too. I think I want to support that too. I think they bring up some great valid points. So I just want to put a third support.
So as Mr. McClintock just pointed, so if we focused on those two Dems, the two that are still that would include would be Mr. Hartman, Ms. O'Neill, one of which we've interviewed, the other we've not. So we might want to potentially at least invite Ms. O'Neill to another interview. And then, the other is the ethnicity. Although, I think it wasn't just the last conversation, I think the last 2 or 3, we've really been we've really kind of ended up on, that partisan balance issue has been predominant. And that's been where the majority of our public comment has taken us as well. Not all, but the majority. Mr. Johnson, I see you trying to sneak in here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just so everyone's aware and not missing this, I did want to highlight that with Commissioner Rios's very unfortunate resignation, although best of luck to you in the new job, we will only have left on the commission Ms. Ochoa of color. Not just is she only Latino, she's the only member of color too. So that may factor into why we approach this change a little differently than the earlier ones. So I did just want to make sure people were aware of that and thinking about that.
And Doug, if I can add to that, it would be really nice to have somebody who spoke Spanish to replace Janet with, because it's been such an invaluable resource to have Janet be able to interpret for us. So I'm also keeping that in mind.
Mr. Bradley, did I see your hand?
Just a quick observation, which is that Kevin Elak will be our only and last opportunity to add a Asian ethnic representative to our commission. So we ought to bear that in mind as well. I don't know if we could scroll this spreadsheet down just a little bit to see what our target is for the other way, please. Yeah, there we are. Or wait, I thought we had our, yes, Asian American. We have target is 0.1. It's almost a 1-person assignment, but he is our only choice for that. So just want to bring that to everyone's attention as well. And partisanship is very important. I've certainly stated as much in the past, and I'd certainly be willing to hear any remaining Democratic candidates for this particular position. But I also am a little worried that if we proceed solely on race at this point, given our circumstances with having our last 2 commissioners who've resigned be Latinx, that we're going to have a very, very white commission. So that just worth noting, isn't it?
Just, Mr. Chair, just so we have a clear record, I do want to mention, I don't think this takes away from anything Commissioner Bradley just said, but I do want to flag, there is another Asian American in the pool, Ken Masuda, but he's a Republican rather than an MPP. So I don't think that changes anything you just said, Commissioner Bradley. I just want to be sure we had a clear record.
Thank you.
And Mr. Johnson or Ms. Tilton, just to make sure we're thinking about all of the variables, Mr. Ibel mentioned the opportunity to maybe turn this into an at-large. Are there any other Democrats of color sitting in a different district pool?
No, they're not.
Okay.
All the remaining Democrats are white. For those that may be listening now who haven't tuned into their meetings, this is a long-standing issue with the pool that was created for this commission to choose from.
Okay. Well, anybody want to make a recommendation and get us started with a specific proposal on how we proceed? And just as a technical issue, the next meeting that we would conduct regular business would be on July 7th. So, that would be our next opportunity to take this. So while you're all thinking about where you want to go, Ms. Heller properly reminds me we should probably get some feedback and input from our friends in the public. So let's do that. Ms. Tilton, anybody other than Ms. Heller? Let's start with her.
Yes, we have so far 3 hands raised. First is Lee Heller, followed by Lata Murthy, and then Kylea Solis.
Very good. Dr. Heller, welcome this evening.
Chair Morris and commissioners, here we are again. I keep asking you not to do this. I do want to begin by thanking Commissioner Rios for her service, congratulating her on her job future, and expressing my great regret at her departure. So in the past, I have argued for party parity because that has been the dominant motif in the ordinance controlling this commission. But demographic diversity is also a controlling factor, and we have gotten so out of balance on this commission that I have to speak in support of emphasizing the choice of a person of color who is qualified, as Mr. Elak clearly is, to replace Commissioner Rios. Even though he's not a Democrat, he has no party preference. He interviewed extremely well. I just can't imagine this commission with 10 white people. It just seems unacceptable to me. It's hard enough for it to be 9 white people. So you can go ahead and interview Ms. O'Neill. You've already interviewed Mr. Hartman. There are no other people of color who are not Republicans. And I think Mr. Masuda is also much older, and we're looking to keep some youth involved. So I'm going to encourage you to limit it to D5. And if you feel the need to interview a third person, that's fine, but really to focus your attention on another person of color who's qualified, because we can't do the party parity thing anymore and have any kind of demographic balance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Lata Murthy, followed by Kylea Solis.
Good evening, Dr. Murthy.
Good evening, Chair Morris and commissioners. Commissioner Rios, congratulations. I think I speak for more than just myself when I say we will miss you. We will miss you very much. 2 things. First is a question. If we do follow Commissioner Toivel's original suggestion, and I shouldn't say we, but if the commission decides to, I wondered if there are any no party preference candidates on the list who are also people of color. I believe if you're going to go that route and open it up, then you should consider both Democrats and no party preference. But I'm not sure there is anyone on the list who meets those criteria. And if not, then I too voice my support for appointing Kevin Elak to the vacant position for District 5. And I'm thinking about the ordinance and complying with the ordinance to be as representative as possible, not only in terms of political party, but in terms of race and ethnicity and age. And yes, as others have said, to truly be representative at this point of the county, then I think you would either have to consider other Democrat no party preference candidates of color or appoint Kevin Elak to the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. Before we go to Ms. Solis, Mr. Johnson, could you answer that question? I should have asked that. I asked you if there were any other Democrats of color. I did not ask you about non-party preference. I should have.
I don't believe there are. Let me take a quick.
I reviewed. I did not see any.
Okay.
We have one declined to state, but we believe that he is not
Of color.
of color. Mhm.
Okay. Good clarification, though. Thank you. Let's take Ms. Solis. Good
Hello
evening.
again, Commissioner.
Welcome back.
Good evening. Thank you. Also wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Rios for her service and best of luck with the opportunities ahead. And I also think that it is very important that the commission look at replacing her with a younger person of color. I really do think that Mr. Elak is the strongest candidate given his tenure as a teacher, like Commissioner Rios mentioned. And his age and role seem to me to be the most similar to Commissioner Rios's, particularly in regards to young people, which as someone who is 23, it would be great to see someone who is younger on the commission. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have a request to speak from Rebecca Garcia.
Ms. Garcia?
Hello, commissioners. Sorry for jumping the gun earlier. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stay this long, but yeah, I just wanted to voice again that cause really strongly supports Kevin Elak being considered, especially being a person of color who understands the community and works with students of color. Yeah, we think he's a really good candidate. So thank you. And I know it's been hard making these decisions over and over again, but appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Chair Morris, I don't see any additional hands raised at this point.
Okay, we'll close public comment then on that. Bring it back. Commissioner Ochoa, Commissioner Kylea, Mr. Trusky, we haven't heard from you folks yet. Any wise thoughts?
I don't have anything else to add beyond that, but I like the idea of creating more diversity. So I guess I do have something to add.
Mr. Chair, if I can add one question for the commission to consider is, if you wish to give direction that let's invite Mr. Elak, that's great, but keep in mind he may decline. As you may know, he coaches both the men's and women's wrestling teams at the high school, and their season is October, November, December, and then into January, which is exactly when your workload will get heavy. So I would suggest give first step. Why don't you think about first step direction and possibly fallback direction, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks to come back and get more direction.
Well, and to that point, it probably wouldn't be 2 weeks, it would be a month, because we're only doing business meetings every other, right? Good input, thank you. Somebody have a motion they want to put on the floor to get us started, or?
I move that we go, do you want to speak, Commissioner Bradley?
I just had a question. I don't know how long it's been since we've checked in with Kevin Elak to see if he's still willing and available to be appointed. And so I'm wondering if we need to defer this decision until we get some kind of verification of that.
Well, or I think that was the point Doug was making of let's give him an A and a B direction, so that, you know, if the choice of the commission is we want Mr. Elak, that's our A option, but if he declines, what's the B? So we're not, because really, based on the way we've set up our meeting schedule going forward, that would put us to the first part of August before we'd be able to do interviews and make another appointment.
Yeah, so I don't know if I anticipated your comment or question, Commissioner Adams.
I move that we indicate that the commission's A option is to seek to appoint Kevin Elak to the District 5 vacancy.
And do you have a recommendation as part of that for what the B option would be?
Oh, you want A and B at
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to me that the only other option is the two candidates that we already discussed, who are Democrats and who are white and who are older than Kevin Elak. And that's not a good option, but it's a B option. So if you want a motion, you know, that consists of A and B, then that would be my motion. That the commission.
So like as we've you know, this is where we found ourselves often, right? We have multiple objectives that we cannot satisfy simultaneously. And so yes, if your goal is to not appoint a Republican, that would be the option. If your goal is to focus this time on ethnicity, there is another candidate of color in the 5th district who we have not interviewed. And so, you know, a B option might be, you know, we would invite to interview, we would consider the 2 Democrats and the candidate of color, and then make a choice at that point. So, you know, again, we often find ourselves trying to figure out a way to get both sides of a coin that doesn't want to do that.
So, Chair, are you making a motion, a different motion?
No, I just wanted to, I was reacting too soon to your comment, so my apologies.
Okay.
But let's do this. So your
okay.
motion then, as I understand it, let me make sure I've got it right, would be to invite Mr. Elak to accept an appointment to the commission, and that failing his availability to interview the 2 candidates that are registered Democrats
in
the
D5
fifth
pool.
district. Yeah.
Very well. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Bradley seconds that motion. Now, is there any other discussion? Okay. Are we ready for a vote? Oh, Ms. Twyvell, sorry, I saw your hand come up.
I guess I would just still want to move Kate to the 5th district and open it up and don't consider political party and consider ethnicity. So that opens it up to people we have already interviewed. And one would be Lupe Alvarez. So I think we should consider ethnicity in the whole pool.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion that's in front of us? Mr. Johnson?
Just one thing for you to consider in terms of flexibility. Mr. Martinez is the only person of color who has not yet been interviewed. So if you included him and interviewed him now, that would give you the flexibility to consider, if Mr. Elect declines, then you could consider all the members in the pool who are of color, because you will have interviewed them all, in addition to considering the 2 Democrats from District 5. Just an option to consider.
Ms. Adams, I see your hand is raised.
I was just wondering if I have any right or privilege to prefer not to be moved to the 5th district and to prefer to remain the commission's at-large commissioner.
I think you certainly have the right to express that preference, and I think, the last time we went through this, we asked Mr. Olmedo if he was open to it, and we're prepared to not do it if he had declined. So yes.
Okay.
I presume that in making that comment that you're expressing that preference.
In the immortal words of Bartleby the Scrivener, I would prefer not to be moved from my at-large position now.
Well and good. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Ms. Tilton?
Commissioner Trotsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Twyvell,
Aye.
Commissioner McClintock,
Aye.
Commissioner Turley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Kasich,
Aye.
Commissioner Bray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rios,
Aye.
Commissioner Adams,
Aye.
Chair Morris,
No.
motion carries.
Very
10-1.
well. Okay, so just to reiterate, Mr. Johnson, how is it that you understand you're moving forward? Make sure that you and we are on the same page.
I'll let Ms. Tilton answer, because she'll be the one making the calls.
All right, fair enough.
So it's, we will first contact Mr. Elak to see if he is interested in the appointment. If he is not, we will go to Plan B, and we will be interviewing the 2 available Democrats, and that would be Michael Hartman and Renee O'Neill.
Very well. Okay, commissioners, I think that takes us through our business items. The last item is just an opportunity for commissioners to request items to be added to future agendas. Is there anything that needs to be brought forward at this time? Ms. Adams?
Commissioner Trotsky, you want to, I saw your hand waving there.
I just had a question on the scheduling. Thank you, Commissioner Kate. The 1st district meeting is on Anapamu Street. Is that right, Shirley?
The county offices, yeah.
Okay. And is that because there was no, like MUS is not available, or there's nothing in District 1?
I'm going to default that over to Ms. Tilton or Dr. Phillips. They were working with the county on those arrangements.
So the county facilities are located in District 1. So the Planning Commission office, as well as the Board of Supervisors, it's all located in District 1.
And if I could add to that, Commissioner Trotsky, we were facing a number of challenges in wanting to accommodate hybrid meetings, especially for those where we were having the business meetings. So we chose to have to try to use the Planning Commission, I'm sorry, the county facilities for some of those meetings that we could ensure we'd have solid internet accessibility, as well as handicap accessibility and capacity, and being able to, it's a tremendous endeavor to set up the audio and the recording. And so we are working with those remote locations to get appropriate audio recording and internet, but it has been quite a feat.
Ms. Twiebell, did I see your hand up as well?
I just have, they're dumb questions. How many people can join a Zoom meeting?
The count I use in my work is 500. I don't know what the one the county's using.
So really, we should be really working at trying to get people to come to the next Zoom. Okay. And then my other dumb question is the paper maps. Is the only way to get a paper map to print it out from the website, or are we going to be provided like packets that we could take to meetings and hand out?
Yes, that's what we typically do. We typically have them available when we start having in-person meetings. We will have printouts of the paper map.
Well, Commissioner Bradley and then Commissioner Turley.
I wanted to draw your attention to the District 3 hearing that's scheduled for August 12. I believe I saw, the one I have in my packet here says to be determined, but I think what I saw earlier was that it was set for the Solving Council chambers. I just wondered if you'd looked into the Veterans Memorial Hall. It's a much bigger venue, might be better for social distancing. It can accommodate more people with a larger parking lot. And also it has excellent internet connectivity with the Solving Library that's right next door. So I just wondered if you'd looked into the Solving Memorial Veterans Hall there in Solving as a meeting place for hearing 7 on August 12th.
We have only talked with the city of Solving about using their city council chambers, but we can also look into the Veterans Hall, assuming that the internet access is good enough for our purposes.
It's pretty robust. They have good wireless access. As I say, the library is directly adjacent to it, and they have public wireless there. Also, I'm expecting a fairly robust response for District 3, so it might be advisable to take on a larger venue.
I want to point out that for District 3, we'll be having one of the post-map hearings in, let's see, I believe that's, get to the second page, on November 15th in Guadalupe.
Mr. Turley and then Commissioner Adams.
Yes, I apologize. I may have missed a boat on this, but I feel really strongly that we should also invite Tom Martinez to interview next week if he's interested. So I was wondering if it would be possible to make a motion to add him onto the interview schedule.
The meeting's not closed and you can certainly make a motion. Is there are you doing that? Is that
I am motioning to do that, please.
Very well. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Bray seconds that motion. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Just that I think Doug Johnson had pointed that out earlier. I thought that was wrapped into it, but I guess he didn't enumerate that exactly. So
it wasn't part of the motion.
Let's definitely add that third candidate. Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion on that particular item? Let's do a quick roll call and see if we how that turns out.
Commissioner Trotsky.
She's got that sticky mute button.
there we go.
You're good.
Aye.
Commissioner Twibell,
Aye.
Commissioner McClintock,
Aye.
Commissioner Turley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Kasich,
Aye.
Commissioner Bray,
Aye.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rios,
Aye.
Commissioner Adams,
Aye.
Chair Morris.
Aye.
Motion carries 11-0.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, you were next, and then Commissioner Rios.
I just want to say that throughout this meeting tonight, I have had two browsers up, Chrome and Safari, and I cannot get anything on our website to load in the draft maps tab. It's a single sentence that says, you know, when it's time, you'll be able to access things here. So none of the things that Solis was showing us was I able to actually see. Don't know if it's just, you know, on my end, cookie problem, something like that. But if both I and Commissioner Rios had that problem on two different browsers, then maybe the public will have that problem as well.
Thank you. And I can provide an answer that might be helpful. If you hover over draw map, there's a subtext that is for draft map, or I'm sorry, hover over draft maps. There's a subtext for draw a map. And
I think what you're saying though, Commissioner Adams, is that you're on that page, but you're not getting the graphic images.
Ms. Tilton, you're making me look foolish because I just did what you said and the problem has disappeared.
Oh, good.
But we're going to see if we can rework that. We had a conversation with Chair Morris yesterday about that to see if we can rework it. So they're a main tab.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's confusing because you assume that you're going to be able to click. Yeah, we had that same discussion, Chair Morris and I did just yesterday.
Thank you.
Ms. Rios.
Yes, I was looking at the meetings in Santa Maria, the public hearings, and I just wanted to offer some other suggestions for accessibility purposes. I was trying to think of, you know, what's center of our community and some other options if there's still time to consider. I was thinking Allen Hancock College. It is near a bus stop. It is near the mall. I don't know how that works, but I know that, you know, it's a college campus. We could potentially rent out one of their facilities. They are equipped to serve, you know, with technology. So maybe exploring Allen Hancock College as an option. Maybe some of our community centers, not sure how equipped they are to support us with the type of technology and service we need. But I think there was a reason why we didn't go with Veterans Hall, but maybe looking into what Minami can offer, Minami Community Center, even the Abel Maldonado Center, which is again in that same area as Allen Hancock City Hall, the mall, the bus stop, it's right across the street. So yeah, the Abel Maldonado, that's a huge one. I said Minami, potentially also Atkinson. I know that's often used as a voting site. It's more northern Santa Maria, but I think of, again, accessibility. There's a bus stop near there. Atkinson Park, yes. So just offering those areas of options, just because I personally, I mean, I grew up on north side of Santa Maria over there by Robert Bruce, El Camino. I rarely, you know, it's hard getting to Betteravia. And if you put a bus stop near our next meeting, you know, and if we do something in person, I'm just trying to think of our folks who may not have access, or even, I don't know what the library is kind of small, but just trying to think center of town that has equal access to all.
Good.
Has Hancock been something or a place that NDC has reached out to?
Dr. Phillips, do you?
No, we have only considered the Betteravia hearing room for District 5 because of the considerations that Ms. Tilton already raised, technical, audiovisual, but we can certainly look into it.
And recording is another mandate for these, so that even throws in an additional, because we have to have everyone mic'd so we get the proper recording. So these particular rooms are set up for that. And we are working diligently for those other remote locations to try to make it happen, to be able to do the proper miking and recording and audio for both in the room and for the recording as well.
So Hancock does have a board, a school board hearing room that might be similar to the Betaravia facility.
It's a little smaller. The room in the student center would work better for size, but I don't know about the technology. Okay, let's move on. We do need to take general public comment before we wrap up. I also just wanted to, just while we're on the subject of future meetings, just would remind you that there's a column on that schedule that was sent to the commissioners that indicates which ones are quorum required and which ones are not, right? And so the ones that say yes are meetings at which we need at least a quorum in order to conduct business. The other ones, all commissioners are welcome to attend, but we will probably limit the number of participating commissioners, facilitating the meeting to maybe a couple of us, so that we're concerned about some Brown Act issues and how we're noticing these meetings, right? So our next one on Saturday, because it's an all county and it's still virtual, we've noticed that as a Brown Act meeting. So if we all show up, we're good. Or at least we were trying to get that in under the radar. Still, I think we got that up, right? Is that you've got that up? So good. But in the future, some of those, non-business meetings, the expectation is not that everybody must make every one. You're certainly welcome to attend, but you're not required to make every single one that is on that. On a personal note, I would encourage commissioners to try to actually get to at least one or two outside of your end of the county. I think one of the things that we all bring to it is our lens of what we know. And, we live in the north or the center or the south, and maybe going and spending a moment just sitting in the audience listening to folks from the other end might be advantageous. So, Mr. Bray, I'm going to give you the last comment, then I'm going to go to public comment. I guess I'm going to go you and then Ms. Turley, and then we're going to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick question on a future agenda. And if I'm the only one struggling with this, I will withdraw the suggestion. And that has to do with commissioner emails. I'm a little confused on emails, and more importantly on how that affects our personal emails. Can we get some guidance on that?
Yep.
I guess from a technical standpoint, what does that mean if we set it up and then are our computers subject to be scrubbed if there's an issue? I'd just like a little guidance on that.
Yeah. So, Ms. Orton, is that something you can do in under 90 seconds, or should we put that on a next meeting?
I hope I can do it in under 90 seconds, but Solis will help me as well. It is best if it is related, it comes to your personal email, it is related to redistricting business. I think Solis would much prefer that it come through the redistricting site so that we can log everything that is redistricting related together, and then the response will go back through the redistricting site as well. And that, again, it keeps your personal email free from, if there is a Public Records Act request, we don't have to go digging through your personal email. So I think that would be the best way to handle it if you're not going to use a county email.
And if we use a county email, then we are subject to.
No, if you use the county email, then that issue about mixing it up with your personal email is not quite the same. So, but there are some other restrictions. So now we're getting a little over the chair's a number of minutes, but there are restrictions from the county about what would happen if you had a malfunction or you had been hacked. And so that's something we can talk to you, staff can talk to you independently about that. And we can also put it on the agenda if everyone else is having some concern with it.
Yeah, but let's do that. I think if you have concerns and you're trying to determine whether or not to take a county provided email address or not, I'd encourage you to reach out to Ms. Tilton and she can walk you through the pros and cons individually. Okay, Ms. Turley.
Yeah, so this is more of a procedural question, but I don't remember when we interviewed for these positions. Is there mileage reimbursement offered for driving in between commission meetings?
That's a great question. Ms. Anderson, can I impose on you to take a shot at that?
I can. Chair Morris, there is part of the bylaws, it's not included. We looked at that at the beginning. Remember, you guys are a new commission. So that would be something that you would consider as a commission, and we can look at including in the bylaws. I can provide some sample language to your council to see if it's something that we could modify into the bylaws if your commission is interested in that.
Okay. Very good. All right. Let's turn to the few folks that are still remaining in our public pool, and we will take general public comment at this time before concluding our meeting. Ms. Tilton, any takers?
Request to speak from Spencer Brandt, followed by Lata Murti.
Mr. Brandt, good evening.
Good evening, Chair Morris and commissioners. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I would like some more clarification on the hearing schedule, specifically when you talk about focus areas and it's split up by district. So I'm wondering what happens if I am a resident of Guadalupe and I arrive at the meeting in Santa Maria for the focus area of District 5. Am I still able to have a conversation about my community even though I'm not in the 5th district? I think advertising it as a focus area by district might make people who are not in that district want to show up. And there are tons of examples of communities that are on a borderline, Vandenberg Village and Mission Hills. If they show up to the Lompoc hearing, if I live in Goleta in the Elwood area and I show up to the District 2 hearing. So I don't know, maybe I have a misunderstanding, but when it says focus area, what I hear is we're talking about the existing districts instead of talking about communities of interest and what the new districts will look like. So thank you for allowing me to say that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just share with you the conversation I've had with staff on that is I think our intent is to prioritize discussion from residents within that community so that they get an opportunity, but we are not going to close off the opportunity to anyone to talk about any part of the county. We may ask those that are from outside the district to maybe wait until we've gone through the folks that live in that district, and that may be their best opportunity to attend. But we are certainly known and have no intentions at this point of foreclosing the opportunity to speak at any public meeting to anyone.
And the next speaker is Lata Murti.
Welcome back, Dr. Murti.
Thank you, Chair Morris and commissioners. Actually, my question was very similar to the one asked just now by Spencer Brandt. I will be away on a family trip during the meeting for my district in District 4. And actually, as a resident of Orchid, it's the District 5 meeting in Santa Maria will be closer for me than the one in Lompoc. And I wondered, can I still attend that District 5 meeting and make comments and suggestions related both to Districts 4 and 5? And it sounds like I can. So that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chair Morris, I'm not seeing any hands raised. We did receive one other general comment that was submitted to the general email from Carl Diubaldo, just in general regarding the county wasting time and money.
Noted. All right, we'll close our public comment. Commissioners, last chance, go to the order. Anything? We will see some of you, maybe more, on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Our meeting of June 16th is now adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Adams, we didn't go till 10.
It's true.